Welcome to another edition of the Hoop Scoop. I'm Jarret Johnson, and wow, Texas Tech, undermanned Texas Tech. They had more than 7 players this time, but they didn't have arguably their 2 best players in TJ Shannon and Kevin McCullough against number 6 Kansas, who, let's face it, they've been the bullies of the Big 12 for a long time. I know Tech and Kansas State shared that title a couple years ago, and then Baylor, of course, did what they did last year, all the way to winning the national championship. But, man, Kansas is still Kansas. Bill Self is still coaching them. And, they've looked pretty good this year. I know they haven't played as hard of a non-conference as they're used to, but still, they came in with just 1 loss. They were 1-0 in the Big 12. And, everybody expected Kansas to win this game probably comfortably once we heard for sure that McCullough and Shannon weren't going to play. I mean, you're talking about, 2 stalwarts on this team, 2 of the better players. It just seemed like a foregone conclusion that Kansas was going to come in and, even if Tech played valiantly, that Kansas would get out with the W. But that's not what happened. Tech pulled off the huge upset, 75-67. And I would argue this is truly Coach Mark Adams' first signature victory. Don't get me wrong. The win over Tennessee, a very good team, a top 25 team for sure, at Madison Square Garden on that stage. That was huge. But the game was so weird. Don't get me wrong. You're not giving that away. You're going to take it. That was a big win, all that. But it was, one of the worst shooting games I've ever seen in my life at any level. And it's just a weird game. Tech gutted through. They got a really important non-conference victory there. But this over Kansas, I mean, come on. This showed a lot of guts and fortitude. Great strategy from the coaching staff. They were ready. This looked like a different team today. The Red Raiders shared the ball. They, took a lead early. They led most of the game. Kansas would make runs and tie it and all that, but the Red Raiders were in control for most of the game, and they ended up winning by 8. I mean, they were up by, I believe, as many as 14, maybe more, but definitely 14. And Kansas would come back because they're the Jayhawks, and make it close. And there at the end, the Red Raiders made the plays on both ends of the floor that they had to make to win the game, and they knocked down their free throws. They're not a good free throw shooting team. They shoot like 66%, something like that, on the season. They shot only 68% today, but they made the ones they needed to down the stretch, whether it be Clarence for sure made a couple. I think Silva even. They made the free throws they needed to. They made the plays they needed to win a huge game. I mean, this was big. Coming off that 4-point loss to Iowa State, despite losing those, only having 7 guys. And then with a game at Baylor, looming up next. I mean, it looked like a surefire 0-3 start for the Red Raiders, but no, Texas Tech pulled off, again, just a huge monumental victory over number 6 Kansas. And I'm not usually like a big stat guy, but there were some really crazy stats, impressive stats for the Red Raiders, which really paints a picture of why Tech won and why they were in control of the game for most of the game. First off, points in the paint, the Red Raiders had a 44-18 advantage. I mean, come on, that's dominating. Kansas, known as a up-tempo, fast-break team, only had 7 fast-break points. That was a huge key. The Red Raiders won the rebounding battle 33-24 and enjoyed a 15-5 advantage in terms of second-chance points. That's significant. I mean, that's the ball game, 10 points there. They won by 8. I mean, there it is. And then bench, despite being without, 2 of their starters, 2 of their key players, they still outscored Kansas's bench 14-11. So those were the big stats. I mean, I think the points in the paint and the fast break and the rebounding, I mean, those 3 are why Texas Tech won the game, and because they made the plays they needed to down the stretch. And I want to give some love to these individual players because they played like a team. They won like a team, but there were some really nice individual performances. And I think you have to start with Bryson Williams, who finished with 22 points, 8 rebounds, 3 assists, 1 steal, and no turnovers. But it wasn't just a one-man show. Clarence Nadolny, again, 2 games in a row, given more minutes. He started, and again, his career high at Texas Tech, 17 points to go with 3 rebounds and 3 steals. Just played tough basketball. Was under control for most of the game. Adonis Arms, one of my favorite players, and he tweaked his ankle like on the final play of the game. So we'll have to see what his status is for Baylor. Hopefully it's not anything serious because he does a lot for Texas Tech, a lot more than what shows up in the stat book. But he had 8 points and 4 assists. And then Mylik Wilson playing his first game in a while, in at least a handful of games. He really steadied the team. He helped get the offense going. He was another floor general type to pair with Clarence. And I think, if Mylik Wilson doesn't play, you might not win this game. And I know it sounds crazy since they won without TJ Shannon and Kevin McCullough, but I mean, I think it was that important, that critical what his role. Now his stats: 5 points, 5 assists, 4 rebounds, and 1 steal aren't like a wow factor, but coming off the bench, he really helped get the offense in a flow. Continued the great ball movement they showed. Easily the best offense Tech's played all year with that ball movement, and he was just a big deal. Kevin O'Banner, you know, he's a guy who struggled so mightily from 3 after being just one of the best shooters, one of the best big man shooters last year for sure, certainly in the tournament. Put up monster games, but he's really struggled from deep. But he had 7 points and 7 rebounds, and there were some big rebounds, especially on the offensive end. And that was something that has proven true so far. He came in with the reputation of being an elite offensive rebounder, and he's shown that. He certainly showed that against Kansas. And then Marcus Silva, you know, I mean, look, the guy struggled some in his time here, but he's played some really tough minutes against some big dudes. And he had 7 points, 4 rebounds, 2 blocks, and 2 steals. He did a little bit of everything. I thought he was really good late. And, you know, he did a better job of finishing. And that's really the thing with Marcus Silva. If he's got a scoring touch, if he's, you know, scoring around the basket, then he really brings a positive impact all around for the team. So, I mean, that's what it takes for, you know, a team to knock off, you know, a top 10 Kansas team. And that's what it's going to take. So it's for a team performance, a good game plan, executing that game plan, making those really key plays at the end of the game when it matters, and then obviously a bunch of individual performers playing well. I didn't even mention Davion Warren. He battled. I really like what he brings to the table. Don't get me wrong. He turns the ball over too much, and he gets caught trying, you know, basically gambling for steals sometimes too many times, and it cost at least 1 or 2 threes today. But he also drew at least 3 charges. He had that play where he got ripped. The guy Brown got a big steal and then dunked on him, but he didn't hang his head or anything. He didn't pout. He had a big steal late in the game, which really helped seal the victory. Kansas was still battling, knocking down threes, and they kept coming back and cutting in the lead. And Wilson got that steal, and I think that was really huge. He made some really nice plays. He also had a really nice baseline drive for an and one, which helped bust that zone, which was giving Tech fits for a while. And as Mighty Joe has written several times, Mighty Joe Yeager, you know, on the site, that the zone's giving Tech problems this year, but they were ready for it. They played well, and I think that play, that baseline drive and one, that aggressiveness that Davion Warren showed really helped with the whole effort in going against the zone. So this performance gives us an idea of what we've all been talking about since they assembled this team. Ironically, it came without, again, 2 of its best players, if not their best players in Shannon and McCullough. But it shows the depth, it shows the potential, it shows the talent that they have on this roster. It shows that some of these young guys can really step in and play. And I think Clarence Adoni, he has to be given more minutes moving forward. And I also think, Batcho coming back was huge. Daniel Batcho, he only played like 6 or 7 minutes, but those minutes were big, and his length and his athleticism and all that helped. He finished around the rim. You know, he was the most dominant, physically imposing big man out there on the court. Though Bryson Williams really showed off his overall all-around game by punishing Kansas on the block and then stepping out and knocking down a big 3. So just a great all-around performance. It's one of those that I think we'll remember. One of the biggest wins on the season for sure when you beat Kansas. And I think this really sets the Red Raiders up in terms of making a run with the Big 12, seeing how they can compete. Of course, they have a big challenge coming up against Baylor next, but this really helps them with playoff seeding, helps them just with their positioning within the conference, which looks as tough as ever from top to bottom. So huge win, great win for Mark Adams and the staff, great win for the fellas, and I can't wait for the next game. So until then, I want to thank you for watching, and until next time.